Welcome back to the Temple of Fiends. We are revisiting the classic Temple of Fiends dungeon, having picked up all 4 of our glowing crystals. Here's a look at our equipment, most notably ribbons on everybody. A full set of Genji equipment on our master. That's a new one for us, and we have just as much defense as we can get on our mages, while keeping their additionally useful armor intact. Surrounding the black crystal, and we've created a time gate. And yes, our crystal blocking our way does disappear. And here is the Temple of Fiends revisited, back in time 2,000 years. Looking at the tile sets, immediately you can tell that this dungeon has been greatly inspired by Final Fantasy IV. And I would bet, given an opportunity, this author may have put in an 8-bit remix of the Final Fantasy IV final area. It's a little bit facetious there. But this is very, very clearly inspired by the FF4 tile sets in that final dungeon. And cool to see it present in an NES game, in a workable NES ROM. Which is very cool. So, going to try to get away from this battle because this is one of the more difficult families of battles that you can fight here in the Temple of Fiends Revisited. Once you go back in time, you take kind of a funky route through the castle where you go from the ground floor up to the top floor. I think you go up to the 3rd floor, and then you fight the Phantom, which is the undead eye-like thing, and then you have to kind of work your way back down, and then you get into the basement, and that's when you start hitting the elemental floors, where you face the 4 fiends again in order. But so the first part of the dungeon is actually the most difficult, and the green dragons are the worst. They are terrible, and I realize it looks like this battle is not runnable, but you can run into, in the NES version, groups of 4 green dragons, or they're called gas dragons, I think, gas Ds, and they can just hit you with that poison attack, that all-targeting poison ability, and just really, really soak up your hit points quickly. So we are going to go through the final dungeon here, and I'm going to make a bonus video where we look at a short bonus dungeon. That is a new dungeon on the world map. But we're going through the Temple of Fiends Revisited without going through the bonus content, and then we'll take a look at the bonus content in a wrap-up video for this beta version. So if you are familiar with this patch and you're wondering what's happening with the bonus dungeon material, that will be coming soon. It's also easy to kind of get turned around in the castle part of the Temple of Fiends Revisited. This one is a little bit more linear, thankfully so. Not that the other one isn't linear, it's just that it's harder to see where you are and remember which direction you were going. This one, with the bridge tiles, makes it very clear where we are. So here's the Phantom. Phantom is an eye-like enemy, so like the evil eye in the ice cave. It has similar spell and ability sets where it does this. It has the stop spell, and it also can hit you with things like glare for instant death. It might have X Zone or XXXX. I'm not. I can't quite remember exactly, but it just has some nasty instant death abilities. There's a stone plate on the floor here, and no, we do not use the rod on this stone plate. We go ahead and use the loot. That's the loot we picked up in that very first area. And let's continue on. A couple of chests there, but we'll continue on. In the vanilla version, I think there's a couple of chests that have some gold in them down here in the final dungeon. But I think I have everything that I need. So we can head on, heading back down. This is going, in the NES version, this would be going down the, going back down the floors towards the elemental areas. And judging by the enemies I'm seeing, I think that that's consistent with where we are, the chimeras. And the Frost Wolf and the Frost Giants. I think those are all enemies you can fight in the upper floors of the castle before you get down to the earth, fire, water, and wind floors. So I hope there was nothing notable in those chests up there. When I was making this recording, I think I just was pushing on. Because I wanted to get a look at what was going on down here in these lower floors. And the Chimera's cremate ability without ribbons can really be bothersome, but not so much here. Both of them firing off still does an irritating amount of damage, but thankfully the heal helmet and heal staff can wipe that out pretty quickly. And actually, I'm noticing the lower number of unrunnable battles actually means that you get less healing in. When you can run away from those battles, you actually get a little bit less free healing in. So I'm going to take advantage of this battle to get a little bit of free healing in if I can. This is a more manageable fight. That should be over in a round or two. Yep, let's make it one round, make it one action, so there I get a little bit of free healing. But yeah, it's generally when you hit, especially like the water and air floors where you're fighting the unrunnable encounters with the water and air. Here's a sprite. Likely this is a sprite-initiated encounter. We have an old man-looking sprite. You do not belong here. It doesn't have any special text, but it is indeed LICH. It is indeed the refight of LICH, which in the NES version is simply another trapped square. It's simply another trapped square. So you could actually fight this second version of LICH over and over if you wanted. Now, notably, what I'm going to be watching for is, will LICH start off this fight with Nuke? LICH is probably the most dangerous of the fiends you have to fight the second time because it does have the Nuke ability right there, and it can use it right off the bat in the first round. But luckily, we took it out before we got to see. So, luckily for our team, unluckily for those watching at home and curious to see what's going on with Nuke there. So here we're on to the fire floor, but as you can see, the fire floor's enemies have been significantly boosted. In the NES version of this game, the fire floor, you fight the same kinds of enemies you fought back on in the Gurgu volcano. So you fought, one or two fire elementals, not groups of four. You fought things like the fire lizard type enemies, the Agamas, as they are in the NES version. So you fight much easier, less threatening enemies. So it is, you are able, if everyone survives the LICH fight, which is not a given with that Nuke spell, especially at lower levels, if everyone survives, you can kind of use a few battles here to recover without having to guzzle all of your heal potions. But now with the lower healing powers of the heal staff and heal helmets in the NES version, it does take a lot longer on these floors to pick up lost hit points. But we didn't get to see LICH, and the reason Nuke is non-elemental, I think it's equivalent to the Flare spell. It's non-elemental all-targeting, which means that its damage is not cut by the ribbon. So a pro cape and a pro ring, not really notable. Not anything special, not anything to write home about. And that's why I'm not quite as worried about having skipped those other chests before, because we got some money. There's Sasuke's katana again, but I already have checked that is a ninja-only weapon, or at least I'm assuming it's ninja-only. None of my party members can equip it. And in the NES version of the game, the katana is a ninja-only piece of equipment. What I am going to be looking for is the Masamune. In the NES version of this game, the Masamune can be equipped by all of my classes here. So if I throw that on my White Mage, and the White Mage can indeed equip it, I can turn her into another physical bruising machine, so I can actually stick her with a haste spell and a couple of tempers, maybe. in addition to my Master and the Knight up there with the Excalibur. The other option is you can make your fighter even better. You can make your knight even better by sticking the Masamune on him, but then you're kind of wasting the Excalibur. So I prefer to put the Masamune on the white mage and make her a viable fighter, and the fighter also, the knight, is viable. Although against Chaos, less so, because it's harder to land those crits on Chaos. This, I'm guessing, is another round with KARY, or Merilith, and certainly it is. And I'm just going to be using my my heal staff and heal helmet to take care of any damage she throws at me, because my fighters are doing plenty enough damage by themselves. Unless KARY has been given some significant non-elemental damage or has had her attacks way boosted up, I think we're going to be okay. So we'll see if we can come out of this fight full strength without having to use any spells. I'm going to save my haste spells for battles when I really will need them. I'll need at least 2 for that last fight with Chaos, 3 if I can have the White Mage equipping the Masamune, if that's all the same as it is in the NES version. So you can see KARY battle, pretty straightforward. So we're really cruising through the Temple of Fiends Revisited here at level 26. And part of that is that the elemental floors have been made, if not shorter. I don't think they've been made smaller, but I think they've been made a little bit more linear so that you waste a little bit less time looking around to see where you're going. So when you see an experienced player play the NES version of these elemental floors, they're probably not clearing it any more quickly than I am here with this more linear setup. But an inexperienced player would spend more time looking around, trying to see where to go, because sometimes they use, especially I think in the maybe it's the water floor, they use pillars and doorways and rooms to kind of make you take this serpentine path through the water floor, which is just kind of one big open area in the NES version. I think I'm remembering the floor correctly, but the game kind of forces you to take a long serpentine wrapping around path. Forces you into many more fights with waters and gray sharks than you normally would want to do. The red Scyllas there, I think, are the gray sharks equivalent, and then you have the wizards to hags there. It looks like, yeah, we're coming up on KRAKEN. Here we have the water elemental with the sentries. Now, water elementals in the NES version normally unrunnable, but I am going to go ahead and escape from this one because I've seen already that particular battle group happens to be runnable. I'm going to cure up here for KRAKEN, and the KRAKEN strategy is similar to the KRAKEN strategy from before. I'm going to try to get Invis 2 up on my characters for when it does get its physical attacks off, and I'm going to hope it uses useless things like ink or its lightning. I think it has a lightning attack. So I've got my white shirt, and I'm going to throw a Bolt 3 at it because there really isn't anything else for the Black Mage to do. Doing good damage without needing to be buffed. There's 8 hits for 131. I don't think any of those went critical, but that's something that can really get nasty, is if maybe 3 or 4 of those hits went critical. It can one-shot just about any of my characters here with good critical luck. That's what the white shirt is for. So next time it gets its attack off, it's unlikely to land all 8 of its hit attempts like it did on my fighter there on the first round. So I'll take 4 hits for 119, and as you can see, with its single targeting damage, so there's 4 hits for 67, so it's fully half of its hits are missing. And luckily, again, there no crits on the fighter. And there we go. So 4 hits, 375. We are landing crits on KRAKEN, but it did not land any crits on us. Didn't get to see what its AI routine is. On this one, unfortunately, it went with all physical attacks, so we didn't get to see it attempt its ink attack, if it still has that in this one. Or its, I can't remember if it has Bolt 2 or Thunder. Those are both similar, all-targeting lightning elemental attacks. One's a spell, one is an ability, and I don't remember the effectivity of them individually. Here is the, it's definitely a reference to the stair-like path that you'll take down to the Masamune in the NES version. I think I don't know if it's meant to look like stairs. Obviously, that would be flipping the perspective of the game from an overhead view to a side-scrolling view. But it just kind of gives you the impression of going downstairs, because it doesn't really make sense as a structure. But in video game land, things don't really have to make sense as a structure. of course, we can get away with anything we want in video game land. We don't need to have architects or engineers. Unless that's a class you want to build into your RPG, an architect or engineer. It'd be kind of an interesting one to play. But anyway, the Masamune is down here in the NES version. As I said, the Masamune is equipable by almost all classes, or possibly all classes. I could have to confirm that. But most notably, you can throw it on one of your mages to make them a viable attacker. It boosts not only their physical attack, but also their hit percent. So it gives them many hits, multiple hits, all while boosting their attack. So it really can turn them into, they can do just as much or even more than your normal fighters can. Especially your knight using the Excalibur. That weapon kind of fades, I think, when it's next to the Masamune there. Yeah, Masamune has a attack power of 56 and a hit percent of 50, so it gives you another hit, at least one more hit, when you equip it, and possibly rolls you over into a couple more hits. But this is the stair-step like path down. It's not protected by anything, and there's the Masamune. It's or the Masamune. I've been corrected on that. I'm sorry. It's an old habit of myself. The Masamune. And I'm noticing that it has a different. There we go. I'm not able to equip it, and I'm not able to equip it on Zonk Miles. My white mage cannot equip the Masamune. And I'll try my black mage. Unable to equip the Masamune. Let's see if anyone can use it. What's going on with my Masamune? It looks like it might be ninja only. So my Masamune... Yep. My Masamune is not equipable by anybody, so like the Sasuke's katana, the Masamune is not an all-equipped item in this one. So that will change my chaos strategy significantly, and that's another strike against the mages in this particular hack. It's another boost for the ninja, but it's another strike against the mages. So the white mage especially has her powers of exiting out of dungeons is less important now that we have some doorways that lead us to the outside of dungeons at the end of them. The access to all 4 ribbons makes the wall spell a little bit redundant. If you can get all 4 of those ribbons, that's if you do the additional optional dungeon in the basement of Lefian. Which, why wouldn't you, to get another ribbon? And then now we've got a couple of ninja-only weapons that are probably pretty significant. So that Masamune, I would imagine, would really turn your ninja into a powerhouse. And of course, having the Masamune only to be equipped by physical classes, in this case just the ninja, I'm guessing, really makes a lot more narrative sense than having a mage be able to hold this legendary weapon and suddenly become a master fighter. So it makes more sense for it to be more powerful in the hands of a ninja than in a white mage. So certainly you wouldn't fault anybody for making that change. And again, this patch isn't. I don't think it's meant to be a fixed up version of Final Fantasy 1. I think it's meant to be a look at what Final Fantasy 1 could have been as if it was another game. So I wouldn't want to criticize any changes made mechanically just because I feel nostalgic about what it was on the other thing. I like to look at ROM hacks like this that are closer to total conversions as their own entity, although this one kind of straddles the line between total conversion and souped-up version of the original, or fixed-up version of the original. Because we do have some bonus content mixed in here that would suggest lean towards the total conversion part, and we have changed up weapons. A game like Final Fantasy Restored, I think, is kind of the quintessential, definitive ROM hack of the game that was meant to be just a ROM hack that fixed the game's bugs, made the game a little bit more player-friendly without altering the difficulty curve or the balance of the game. And then, of course, something like Final Fantasy ZZ definitely would be considered a total conversion of the game, in my opinion, I guess. It would be considered a total conversion for me, where almost everything has been changed, and almost always to make the game harder. Although your characters have been given a lot more powers in that game, so they're better equipped to handle it than the vanilla version of the game's characters would be. Here is the second battle with Tiamat. And I'm going to face this one the same as I did before because I know I'm protected from the thunder and the poison attacks that Tiamat can throw at us. And I don't think Tiamat's physical attacks in the vanilla version are anything to write home about. So I think with two magic users spamming healing items, I should be able to handle Tiamat okay with just my damage. I could, and it looks like I'm going to just use one of my haste spells to maybe speed this battle up a little bit. 12 hits for 481. That will definitely make this battle over a little bit sooner. Especially now that I know that I'm not going to be using a fast spell on my white mage, or a haste spell on my white mage. It would be cool if haste also bumped your character to act first in the turn order. That would be really cool if that worked. I know that would require big changes in how the game does its turn order and how the game calculates that, which is kind of it's random, but it's leans towards the enemies, I think, going first. But that would be a cool little touch. That would also make it a little bit more like what haste does in the game. I mean, obviously, it would be better if the game used your agility score to bump that up and make the higher agility characters act first. I'm not sure why they didn't do that. I suppose they liked the random element of that, and it made it a little bit more like D&D, where you roll your initiative. So rather than having an agility score that is fixed, you get an initiative bonus to which you add the result of a d20, and then that determines turn order for the battle. This one even does it round by round, so it randomizes it even more. Here's the final floor, and we get another look at Garland. I'm going to heal up here because I'm not exactly sure when our battle with Garland is going to trigger. He's purple again. So yes, we see Garland, and he disappears and backs up. In the vanilla version of this game, the NES version, he just backs up one square. I'll let you read the text. It explains the plot of the game, but not really. It doesn't really effectively explain the plot of the game. But he just backs up one step in the NES version of the game after each text prompt. Here he disappears and kind of teleports back a screen to kind of draw out the final encounter a little bit. But this is chaos. We are at the end of the game. And what I'm going to do with the white mage here is, in Final Fantasy Restored, I was able to land a Dispel, or an Exfer, on Chaos. Now, Ice 3 is a spell, so Chaos opting to use a spell on that one. That is his first spell in the vanilla version. His first ability is the Earthquake Crack ability. That's the all-targeting instant death spell. But what I'm trying to do here is, if Dispel can land on Chaos, then I should be able to hit him with Mute, with Silence. Because Dispel will take away his ability to resist outright. Here's Crack. Everybody should be protected from this because of the ribbons. So I have nothing to worry about with that. That's why I didn't need the Wall spell. So now both attackers are hasted up. Here's Dispel. And defense is removed from Chaos there. So now, theoretically, I should be able to hit him with a Mute spell. It's still not going to be easy because Chaos does have a high magic defense stat, but I should be able to land one. And if you look at a previous video I did with 4 white mages playing on the Final Fantasy Restored patch, I was able to hit him with Exfer, or Dispel, remove his resistance to the status element, and then get Mute to land on him. After that point, the battle is basically over, because Chaos will continue to try to use abilities and spells, and he won't be able to do it. So there's Bolt 3. Bolt 3, or Lit 3, is Chaos's second spell in its progression in the NES version. After that comes Slow 2, and then it's Cure 4. So I'm curious to see what is going to happen when Chaos reaches his fourth spell. Is it indeed still going to be Cure 4, which automatically totally refills his health? What some players do, and some strategies, are to actually wait until Cure 4 shows up before they start going on the offensive. They spend the first few rounds simply buffing up. I'm going to see if I can land Stop on him. So there's Slow 2. There's his third spell. And Stop missed. And Mute missed again. So, but theoretically, his automatic resistance to those has been removed. My black belt is really the only one doing decent damage right now. So the only thing I have to overcome is his very significant magic resistance, magic defense. That's the only tough thing I have to overcome now with those. And 2 hits for 188. It's not great, but I've got some Cure 4s that I can throw at him, so that armor really helps. And again, it's my black belt that's doing the majority of my damage here. So he is in range of the Cure 4 spell if he does indeed have it. If he does cast it, I'm not all that worried because I have plenty of resources to keep this battle going for a while. I have plenty of Cure 4s. I can keep putting defenses up on my characters with the white shirt if I need to. So we'll keep an eye on things. And interesting, it's Cure 3. Cure 3 is what it shows up as. So I'm guessing that Cure 3 just healed him the normal amount of Cure 3. It did not completely refill his health. So that's actually a huge plus for me. That doesn't set me back nearly as much as a Cure 4 did because I'm sure I've done way more damage than Cure 3. Cure 3 probably restored, somewhere in the range of 200 or 300. And there, finally, we get some crits from our fighter. And there's 431 from our black belt. So that, of course, more than made up for anything that Cure 3 would have restored. Yeah, so he has a few other abilities. Those are mostly damaging abilities once he hits crack, and then a few more just damaging spells and things like that. So he's in kind of a less dangerous part of his routine right now. So if we can get a few more good rounds in, see 6 hits for 49 damage. No crits on that one. And now, believe it or not, I'm resorting to the heal staff. So he's buffing himself up with Saber. That's actually a new one for him in this version. He can cast Fast on himself in the vanilla version, in the NES version. But he doesn't have Saber in his spell list. He also does have Nuke. At the end of his spell list, he has Nuke. So if he hangs around too long, he can get to Nuke, and that is really nasty. But we did not quite get there. We took out Chaos just with what we had, without the Masamune, just with our Excalibur, which is predictably useless against Chaos. It was really all the black belt doing the big damage to Chaos. And that's all because of those crits. The higher crit rate and the greater number of hits that the black belt gets are really what's going to damage Chaos. Even casting high-level spells like Flare and things, I do have it, Flare for my Black Mage, is not as effective. Even those are not as effective on Chaos. They just do a couple hundred, because he has high absorb in magic, high defense to magic, so it's not all that notable. So I was better off trying to see if I could land Stop on Chaos, just kind of for curiosity's sake. Also in this, because I was well in control. I didn't really need that extra damage on Chaos. I was just curious to see if I could land Dispel and then actually get a status to land on Chaos. I could have been trying casting things like Fear, too, for my White Mage, but after he got a few attacks off, I had to go to healing mode with my White Mage. So this is the epilogue of the game. We've got a few minutes of epilogue. It doesn't really explain the game very well, and looking at this, I'm trying to see if there's anything that's been notably changed in terms of the translation. And I don't remember the NES version's translation well enough to be able to tell you. You'll have to look that up, I guess, in another video. But I can tell you the flavor of it is mostly the same. The Light Warriors return to the present. The world returns to normal, but then you get on the other end of it, you have Garland back in the present. So we have to keep fighting this over and over again, it seems. At least as I understand it. That definitely comes from the NES version, but when did it ever happen? Question mark followed by a 4-dot ellipsis. But overall, with this patch, this upcoming patch, again, this is the beta version, I think this will be a very exciting addition to the Final Fantasy I Romhack repertoire, and well worth a look when it comes out for anyone. I would recommend checking out the Facebook page of this project so you can follow the progress of the project, and then keep your eye out on ROM hacking when it shows up. Watch out for the full README and full guide to come out with this. I think it's going to be an admirable piece of work, and again, another proud addition to the pantheon of other Final Fantasy I ROM hacks. So if you like the look of this one, be very hyped. And if you do have time for a playthrough of a ROM hack of a 30-year-old game, it will turn 30, I think, next year, 2017. I think it will turn 30. Be very excited and be on the lookout for it. I'd like to say thanks to Duke2Go for putting this patch together. I'd also like to thank the other notable hackers that I used as my naming conventions. Astral Esper. Sulla is not a hacker, is a notable Let's Player, very knowledgeable about this game. SULLA. Also Zonk Miles and Grand. There's also many more notable FF1 hackers, so you can find them over on the GameFAQs forums and in the thank you sections of the various READMEs, particularly the Astral Esper algorithms guide that you can find on GameFAQs. If you liked this video or this series, make sure to give me the thumbs up. I would love to have you hit that subscribe button if you haven't yet. There's going to be more videos like this coming. And do leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Not only does it help me know what you think, it also helps YouTube put this video in front of more potential viewers. I will let you watch the final fun animation of Final Fantasy Reconstructed beta version. We will see you next series.